Let's go.
Welcome to The Insights, brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Centre, FEWRC. Thank you once again for joining us for episode 8. Today we are diving into a timely and pressing issue. In this digital era, online shopping has become a dominant way to buy, bringing ease and convenience, but also some hidden risk. With lower levels of spending planning, many people, especially young consumers, are finding it easier than ever to fall into the trap of compulsive online spending. Youth in particular are seen as a vulnerable group, often spending without the necessary planning and control, making them more susceptible to financial strain. Our topic for today is youth compulsive online spending. Are they vulnerable? But before we begin the conversation, let's take a look at some insightful findings from FEWRC's recent research. Over to you, Fauzi.
Thank you, Shabana. Welcome back to today's show. We are diving into a concerning issue that affects many young people in Malaysia: compulsive online spending and the financial vulnerability that accompanies it. Now, with the rise of internet addiction, social media influence, and low financial literacy, we are seeing a troubling trend among Malaysian youth who are living on the financial edge. Let's take a look at the numbers. AKPK FEWRC recent study showed that 46.1% of young respondents are classified as vulnerable or even extremely vulnerable. That's almost half. Even more worrying, 5.7% admitted they would need to borrow from a third party in case of an emergency, while 28% revealed they wouldn't be able to come out with 1,000 ringgit if needed. And in terms of savings, almost 25% have none, meaning if they lose their job, they have no financial cushion to rely on. In terms of spending behavior, many young people lack financial control. For example, 10.6% were found to have weak spending behaviors, while 17% showed low spending habits. What's really concerning though is that 27.6% don't even consider how much they are spending before making a purchase. But perhaps the most alarming aspect is the compulsive online spending among Malaysian youth. A staggering 38.5% fall into the category of compulsive online spenders, and 31.1% admitted they struggle to resist internal impulses, leading to frequent, often unnecessary purchases. What's even more surprising is that 22.6% of young people are using online shopping as a way to cope with stress, and 19.5% continue to shop online despite facing financial constraints. These situations highlights an urgent need for better financial literacy and healthier spending habits. Without this, many young Malaysians may find themselves in a cycle of debt that could limit their future opportunities. That's all for now. Thank you, and back to you, Shabana.
Thank you, Fauzi, for the eye-opening insights to start the discussion. So, the conversation we'll be having today with our financial experts is to get a deeper understanding about this issue and strategies so as to help young Malaysians break free from compulsive spending habits and take control of their financial futures. So with that, let's welcome our panel, Mr. Muhammad Mafruhin Mukhtar, also the Head of Research Development Department and leading the Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Centre to the program. Welcome and Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Shabana.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah. I'm good.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, back to, I would like to ask you, Encik Mafruhin, let's start our discussion by understanding on what is actually compulsive online spending behavior. What does it mean?
Yeah, I think the compulsive online spending is basically looking at because spending also have compulsive spending behavior. So the compulsive spending behavior, normally when people shop, uncontrollable shopping, For example, if there is any urgency or impulsivity, the characteristics of you being compulsive is when you don't have any planning to buy something, but suddenly there is something that urges you internally to buy something. That is actually compulsive behavior. And when we talk about the online spending, meaning to say is that when you, for example, if you alone, then you so attached with your gadget and there is no one that asks you to buy something, then suddenly you go to the online shopping platform, then you suddenly, I need to buy this. There is no urge, but you are actually cannot control yourself to buy. There are other characteristics of compulsive, like for example, you have a lack of control in spending. Control in spending means for a good or prudent financial management, you need to have a plan, what to spend, how much to spend, when to spend. So if you don't have that kind of planning, then suddenly you spend for unnecessarily. So that is actually also falls under compulsive. And last but not least, emotional triggers. Emotional triggers means when you stress, you feel like, I need to shop in order for you to cope with your stress. So many people don't realize that is exactly compulsive. Like Fauzi mentioned about there's a percentage of among youth, they are actually trying to cope stress with shopping something online. So that is basically compulsive.
So all of these are the trigger factors, Encik Mafruhin, that leads to compulsive online spending.
Exactly.
So in a way, does compulsive online spending leads to indebtedness?
Yes. Well, there is always over-indebtedness being associated with the unplanned or improper spending pattern. So, for example, when we go to looking at the debts landscape of Malaysian youth, where let me start with the data that we have in AKPK. As you know, AKPK provides services called Debt Management Program, where people who have issues in repayment of their bank loan.
Yes, we've discussed this in one of the episodes.
Yes, so we have discussed it in length. So when we look at the data, we found that over 53,000 of youth under the age of 30 are actually having a debt amounting 1.9 billion ringgit.
This is the landscape of the youth debt in Malaysia, Encik Mafruhin?
Yes. So that is basically the youth who came to our program and take our services. And also when we look at the reason why Malaysian youth taking all of this, it makes sense where they have a financial constraint. They need to have, according to some research, 42% of them actually taking because of financial strain, and also to cope up with the inflation, 22%, and lifestyle choice, 21%. So 2 out of 10 actually having debt because they actually want to keep up with the lifestyle.
Actually, besides keeping up with lifestyle, what are the other reasons for this youth to actually take up with so much debts?
There is also some psychological factors or mentality factors of our youth, where when we look at the mentality of youth now, we have, like, for example, the term, there is a quite a lot of discussion of youth having a fear of missing out, FOMO. So they actually, they cannot be missing out with their peers. So their friends bought a new phone, then they have to buy a new phone. So, and another mentality of YOLO, you only live once. So they think that, you only live once, so why don't you go and buy things, your friends also bought it. So then we also have a EWWW. You know EWWW?
I know.
EWWW means IWIWIWI. Means I want, what I want, when I want.
I see.
Yeah. So that is basically the mentality of our young Malaysians. And of course, we also discussed about the lifestyle that have within the family institutions. So they see their parents shopping. They don't know how their parents earn their money, but what they see is their parents shopping. And what they see also, what they ask things from parents, and parents give them.
Yes.
So that is also quite a triggering factor.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, Encik Mafruhin. They are not able to see when their parents go to work.
Exactly.
But they are able to see when their parents go shopping, and that's how they've been brought up, seeing shopping
Yes.
shopping and shopping.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I want to add more on, the role of the marketeers out there. Social media impact, for example. Social media, like for example, we have a few social media that also run AI behind it. The AI is actually developed to learn how people's behavior and also try to learn what people want and what people's need. But unfortunately, the AI cannot learn how affordable you are. So you have
Yes.
to decide whether you're affordable or not. Those social media sometimes suddenly give you promotion that, oh, I really want it, but I cannot afford it. You have to tell yourself that you cannot afford. But sometimes people just go and buy because being influenced by the social media
Yes.
or advertising effects.
Yeah, so somehow this is also related to your level of understanding towards finances, financial literacy, right? So in your view, does inadequate financial literacy actually lead to very bad spending habits?
There is a lot of literatures and there is a lot of research that has confirmed the relationship between the financial literacy and the financial behavior. So when you know something, then you will behave what you learn. What's more, if you don't know, So we also done research where we found that the financial literacy will influence financial behavior. And of course, when you have a good financial behavior, we will have and enjoy a good financial well-being. So of course, financial literacy is very important, and financial literacy is actually one of the main factors of those unplanned spending. And I would like to highlight some statistics to show where is our Malaysian youth
In regard to
financial
financial
literacy.
literacy,
It's fair to compare with other countries where the OECD has conducted research. Then they found that only 36% Malaysian understanding basic financial concepts such as interest rates, inflation, and risk diversification. And these numbers, 36%, is actually below the average score of 42%, where we have 36 or 39 countries has been surveyed. And some local survey where, for example, the Federation of Investment Managers in Malaysia, FIMM, so they found that 80% of non-investors lack of knowledge about unit trusts. And also, last but not least, we found that there is also one study done by the Financial Industry Collective Outreach, FINCO. They found that Malaysian youth having a very, generally low to medium level of financial literacy. So the landscape of financial literacy among youth in Malaysia is quite concerning. There is quite a lot of room for improvement. Shabana.
So, yes, Encik Mafruhin, you did mention less than 40% of the Malaysian youth understand the concepts of financial literacy.
Yeah.
And earlier you also mentioned that about over 53,000 youth under the age of 30 are collectively in near to about 1.9 billion ringgit of debt.
Yeah.
So maybe you can share a little bit on the bankruptcy data among the youth in Malaysia. How is it?
When we look at the bankruptcy, the landscape of the bankruptcy, we can see, there is a number, 31,140 youth age 35 and below actually have been declared bankrupt since 2014 until 2023 last year. So, the numbers is quite many. It shows that even though they are actually still at a young age, with the threshold of 100,000 ringgit to be declared bankrupt, it shows something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Encik Mafruhin. I believe we will discuss on how to address this problem in our next segment. All right, so we will be taking a short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back again to The Insights, brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Centre, FEWRC. Well, Encik Mafruhin, nowadays, right, we always hear this term being mentioned, whether it's through advertisements or whether it's among our youth, buy now, pay later. Like, they will always tell themselves or among their peers, oh, don't worry, you don't have to worry, you are going to pay later, you can buy now. That kind of mentality, that kind of method that we are adopting. So my question, Encik Mafruhin, do you think that this type of payment facility actually further expose these young people to compulsive buying habits and potentially will in a way increase their financial vulnerability?
Thanks, Shabana. Maybe before I go to, to the effect of this kind of improper management or unprudent spending planning using this platform called BNPL, we go to the basic where if you have a very good financial literacy and good financial behavior, with the good financial knowledge, for example, if you can do your budget, for example. So any platform that comes to you, it will gives you a facility to facilitate your transaction. You know, when you have a very certainty that you need to buy something, if you're given any facilities or tools, it will facilitate you better. It is actually a purpose of BNPL. You know, BNPL is a facilities to consumers to facilitate their transaction. They can buy something and pay later. You know,
it's something that is supposedly to be positive,
Exactly.
but being used in a negative way.
Yes, and it can serve as a double-edged sword as well. For example, if those who not having any behavior of planning their spending, they can be easily trapped into overspending because it's actually encouraged for the compulsiveness of purchases. So this is actually encouraged to buy item that you might not need. You know, when you think that there is a buy now pay later for this particular item. So this actually cause you to purchase whether you need or not, and also a distortion of financial responsibility, where you call a false sense of affordability. So what is false sense of affordability means? You think that you can afford to pay it at the end of the month, but in actual fact, you don't. You know, so that is actually BNPL. These tools can be easily trap consumers, or especially Malaysian youth, where if there is no planning, so they can be easily trapped to overspending and over indebtedness, because you buy and you are in debt.
Yes.
You actually buy on credit. You need to pay.
Yes, yeah. So in a way, financial literacy will actually help someone to prevent themselves from misusing this
Yes.
BNPL payment method. But sometimes, even with financial literacy, with a lot of understanding towards finances, Encik Mafuhin, but if you are complete or always being exposed to all these very interesting payment mechanisms, somehow you will also fall into the trap.
Exactly.
So how can we address this, especially for the youth? How can we actually help them to ensure that they don't continuously fall into this trap? Because this will eventually lead to bankruptcy, indebtedness, and etc.
But I think for this segment, I think maybe I want to talk more about,
The impact, of this, compulsive online behavior.
So the impact of compulsive spending behavior, where when you buy and buy, maybe it's small amounts, but when you do it frequently, you can accumulate to another bigger amount.
Yes.
So accumulation of that, yes, of course, if you go into this compulsive spending, and also when you don't realize, maybe when you are in debt, then you cannot afford to pay, you actually compromise your credit score. When you go to the banks and you just realize that, I cannot buy a house because I actually have defaults in previous loan. So you need a house, you need something that you need to buy, but you cannot buy it because you're actually having a low credit score.
Yes.
That is actually the effect of the compulsive spending behavior. And also lack of savings. So you don't realize that when you purchase, you actually jeopardize your amount of savings. So you just buy it and you forgot about how to save. And last but not least, maybe, it's quite a vicious cycle where compulsive spending is also something to do with the trigger. When you stress, you pay. When you stress, you buy. Then after that, if you don't have money, you also stress.
Stress.
So lastly, you have, you compromise your low mental health. And also, based on research, we found that 65% of those who have financial stress say that it affect their job productivity. So it's actually a quite dangerous.
So it's a vicious cycle,
It's a
Encik
vicious
Mafruhin, yeah?
cycle, yes.
So if I can recap what you've just discussed with us, is that the impact of compulsive buying behavior or spending behavior, it actually leads to accumulation of debts in the long run.
Yep.
Yeah? A poor credit score without you realizing it because of all these defaults that you will be experiencing. And a lack of savings and emergency funds. And at the same time, it can also lead to psychological consequences such as low mental health, and this will also impact your productivity and so on. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Mafruhin. We will be having a short break, but before we do, I'd like to share a short video featuring Dr. Suraya, a research director of Khazanah Research Institute, who will be sharing with us her insights on this topic.
The rise of compulsive buying by youth is also contingent on two economic theories. One is the rise of consumerism, where social status or living standards is only pegged to material successes. So this materialism leads to the thinking or perception, especially to the youth, that when you have certain items, certain signal items, be it an iPhone or a nice laptop, it shows that you've made it. So this type of what we call conspicuous consumption is based on what are the signals or types of purchases that would make you be in a certain class of people. So this consumerism can be between their own classes or clusters. Some would say it's a laptop, some would say a nice motorbike, some would say other signifying items that shows your status. The second theory is instant gratification. In most Eastern countries, there is a clear culture bias that you have to work hard, then only you get the returns of working hard. But in a Western and more current contemporary culture, which is now coming to Malaysia and to our youth first, is that you have money, you should immediately reward yourself, instant gratification. And with the rise of BNPL and the rise of credit line, things that you can't pay with your own wage, then you support it with credit. So compulsive buying, especially in the digital age, is made easier. However, these two economic theories, which is consumerism, materialism, as well as instant gratification, propels this type of spending. So some youths are still wanting to have a certain standard of living, and they start using credit to compensate between the cost of living and their wages, which is below the cost of living. So then you use this credit line, BNPL. So there's two things here. One is, what are we doing to make sure that wages are keeping intact with cost of living? That's also the job or tugas for the youth to lobby for this. Because if you graduate, you come out from university, you have to pay PTPTN, at the same time you have to make a living, and the cost of living is sky high, skyrocketed. How do you lobby for you to get more decent pay? And this is something that the government wants to do. Now, secondly, for those who are compulsive buyers and wants to just keep up with what their friends have, some of their friends might be having a nicer wage, and this is when they start buying things that just to keep up with what their friends are having. So this, we need a little bit of education. There's pros and cons of BNPL on youth. Now, if for example, they use it to ensure that they buy things that are positive to their work requirements or positive to their increased social mobility, that is not considered a bad thing. However, the fact that BNPL tries to sell things at lower monthly repayment, but in the end you pay a lot more, that is when it gets a little bit problematic. But secondly, there are new BNPLs now that there's no interest charge to it. So in fact, they gave you a trade credit line, but without looking at the matrix of eligibility that most credit cards do. So even if you are not eligible for a credit card, you are eligible for BNPL. Everybody's eligible for BNPL. So it gives you the impression that it is fine for you to spend that credit line of 3,000, because you don't see that that is an inhibition like the traditional credit card, where they filter you first, whether you are the one that could actually take or manage this credit.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to The Insights, brought to you by Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Centre, FEWRC. Mr. Mafruhin, as we have discussed earlier in our segment earlier, we have discussed on how compulsive online spending behaviour actually leads to indebtedness, bankruptcy, etc., and how the new payment methods such as buy now, pay later further aggravates the situation. And at the same time, how with proper financial literacy, this can actually be addressed to a certain extent. Yeah. So my question to you, Encik Mafruhin, what are your recommendations to address our discussion today?
Basically, this is the purpose of the Insights talk show, where we discuss about the substance and insights. And finally, we would like to give some recommendations to the policy developers out there, or perhaps to the relevant stakeholders who watch the Insights talk show. And for this particular topic on Malaysian youth compulsive online spending behaviour, number one, I think we cannot run away from collaborating with each other. You know, the keyword here is actually to have a strategic collaboration among the stakeholders, because we cannot do it alone.
Yes.
AKPK cannot do it alone. We have to be together, and that's the reason why Bank Negara Malaysia and also Security Commission Malaysia has formed we call Financial Education Network, FEN in short, to look into the financial literacy of Malaysians. So I would like to urge every relevant stakeholders to come up and forthcoming to FEN or maybe to AKPK or Bank Negara to look into how best can we work together to address the improper spending habits of Malaysian working adults or Malaysian youth. That is number one. We cannot run away from working together. We need to have a concerted effort with those relevant stakeholders. Number two, I would like to put, when we look at this youth, they are actually very into online social media.
That's true.
And social media is actually having a very good technology, or maybe they are using AI to develop a very good marketing tools using social media. So we will also need to look at how best can we use the social media to do our advocacy. And the advocacy within, using the social media need to be very effective, using a narrative very straightforward, and can be served as a call to actions to those who serve the social media. When the youth look at the social media, the advocacy efforts need to be very closer to themselves. Maybe perhaps if we look at the TikTok, for example, so we should have a TikTok financial education, from various parties, advocate prudent financial spending and whatnot. So
you must be able to reach to the youth.
Exactly. We have to reach where they are.
Yes.
So so that is also important. Number two. Number three, in our life stages, we have the teachable moments where there is a certain age that we need to go and buy something. For example, I believe and I understand those graduates who just entering workforce, they are actually very eager to buy a car, for example. So same case to other things, small things who are actually advertised via online. So those are actually are teachable moments where we need to advocate during the process of intention to buy. So that they actually have some information so that they can make decision. Maybe if I go back to the TikTok platform, but what content we need to do is actually content that something to do with their teachable moments. Like for example, if you want to buy a car, maybe it's many TikTok we can watch. Okay, if you want to buy a car, so this is the tips that you want to, if you want to buy a car. So if you want to buy clothes, for example, so you need to have this proper planning, spending plan and whatnot. So, so that is number 3, that we need to look at how best can we leverage on social media with a good, actionable narrative. Number 4, that, when we reach out to this, technologies heavy generation, they are very attached and glued to the gadget, right? So maybe perhaps if we can do some advocacy efforts of financial education using the technology, for example, we develop gamification so that they can have interest to play the game, and at the same time they learn about the financial management. So that is also something that we can we can adopt and do our advocacy effort. Again, with the technology, I think we also need to integrate relevant technology education into our existing education system. For example, in schools or in tertiary, we need to teach financial management, right? So
I think they do have financial literacy programs in school right now, right?
Yeah. But in this technology era, so we need to somehow teach how you can prudently spending using technology.
Yes.
I think that is also need to be thought at the education system. It's not enough just to give how to do the cash flow. Yes, that is important, but I think we have to have a very specific example. When you go to the shopping online platform, so what should you do? You need to look at the promotion, and if you really need to buy it, then you buy and do your cash flow accordingly.
Yes, it's true, Encik Marfuhin. I think it's very important for us to be able to reach out to the youth effectively through the ways that are very close to them, and that is social media, technology, etc. Right?
True. And last but not least, I think we cannot run away to teach our young from the early age. So like we mentioned just now, we have the curriculum in the education system. However, to me, the definition of the education system is not forced only under the Ministry of Education. The family institutions also need to play their role in giving education to their kids or children. So the education need to, yes, of course, the education system, but the education also involve a family institutions where parents need to play their roles in giving more, life experience teaching to their kids. So don't expose your children with your, shopping behavior by, buying things without do proper planning. So later, that will be also inculcated within the family institution, and the child and the children, the kids will follow. So that is also things that I would like to urge the family institution, the parents, to also take care of their children. So I think that's basically the recommendation that we try to put forward to relevant stakeholders.
Yes. Yeah. And I believe if early intervention is done, this compulsive online spending behavior issue can be addressed.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you very much, Encik Marfuhin, for your time.
Thank you
for your valuable information. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We have already reached the end of our episode. As we wrap up today's episode, let's remember some very key takeaways to help our youth to become more financially prudent. That is, first, collaboration is crucial. We need to work together to make financial education accessible and impactful, and that means delivering our advocacy in ways that will resonate with the audience, staying visible online and meeting young people where they are, in this case through online presence. Creating teachable moments and using targeted behavioral nudges can also be powerful tools, as well as incorporating tech-savvy materials into financial education modules. Financial literacy doesn't have to be dry. Let's make it engaging and innovative using technology to reach and inspire. Early detection of compulsive spending habits and providing the right interventions are also essential steps. And finally, let's continuously enhance policies that support these advocacy efforts to ensure our youth will have the resources and guidance they need. Thank you for joining us today on The Insights. Let's work together for a financially empowered future for our youth. See you next time.